Hey, no pressure, but New England's NFL record run of 11 straight playoff appearances is over with a loss. So, Max, who do you have more faith in on Sunday? Is it Cam or is it Tua?
It's Cam Newton, and the reason is Bill Belichick, and it works two ways. One, Belichick with Cam. Notice how there's not a quarterback controversy really in New England, in spite of the fact that Cam Newton is almost, I think he's second to last in terms of passer rating. I don't know where his QBR is offhand. But he has thrown, 5 touchdowns through the air, right? Like, he's not a traditional quarterback. And yet Belichick has steadfastly supported Cam since preseason. He is very impressed with Cam's leadership, work ethic, and especially competitiveness. And the kind of loyalty that Belichick shows those kind of players. You think of Belichick as ruthless and heartless, but it's important in terms of the kind of culture in New England that those things are on display, that when a guy leads and competes and works like Cam, that the team sees that the head coach backs him. And by the way, they're one game under 500. In spite of a kind of brutal schedule, and they have a bunch of quality wins, and they're a couple plays from being a couple games over 500. That's one, Stephen A. And the second thing is this, and it again involves Belichick. Belichick's going up against a rookie quarterback. I mean, Tua is impressive, but he is a rookie quarterback, and Belichick has those guys for lunch. That adds up to me to more faith in Cam Newton this weekend.
Well, I can't knock that when you bring Belichick into the equation, because we all know that he does have rookie quarterbacks for lunch, and we get all of that. And I take no pleasure in saying this because I love the guy personally, but I've lost faith in Cam. They can't throw the football. They've got the 26th ranked offense, like the 29th ranked passing attack. Cam Newton is not an accurate thrower of the football. And yeah, he's completing 66% of his passes. We give him credit for that. He's got 5 touchdowns and 10 interceptions on the season. These are just not impressive numbers. I've watched him throw the football. I'm not impressed with it. And when that's going up against the number 2 ranked defense in the entire NFL, led by a guy who's a disciple, essentially, of Bill Belichick, I think that the same thing that you could say about Bill Belichick, even though I'm not taking, in this particular case, I'm not taking history into consideration. I'm just taking their positions and their acumen. The same thing that you could say about Bill Belichick and how he could have somebody for lunch. Well, if you're Brian Flores and you're from that Bill Belichick tree and you see what Cam Newton is doing combined with what you know Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniel like to do, imagine how that could end up working out for you. I just see this as being a bad afternoon for Cam in terms of throwing the football. This defense for Miami is real. I don't think they can be underestimated. And the fact that they're going up against a relatively inaccurate passer in Cam Newton, I think it spells trouble for Cam Newton. My faith would be in Tua by default.
The Dolphins have gotten better and better as the season's gone on, that's true. But I'm looking at Cam's numbers from their first game, where the Patriots beat them by 2 scores, and he didn't throw any touchdowns in that game. He also didn't have any interceptions, threw for 155 yards, completed 15 of 19. That kind of performance can beat this team, as it did originally. Of course, there was a different guy under center at the time. Nevertheless, Justin Herbert, I just got through raving about, and they got talent on the team, and in spite of Anthony Lynn's coaching problems. Stephen A., Belichick took Herbert and that team and beat him 45-0. And I like Tua a lot. He ain't Justin Herbert.
And also, it should be noted that the Patriots do not play well historically against the Dolphins when they're away. Their 9-11 road record is the worst against any of their opponents since the year 2000. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. We have some college football to talk about. It is... All right, we'll see about that. You've called a couple other things on this show. We'll see if you're right about that one, too. Guys, we're going to talk some college football coming up here. It is championship weekend, and guess who's joining us? We've got our good friend Tim Tebow to break down college football's championship games. Don't miss his prediction for the nation's Final Four. Also, Tom Brady says his relationship with Bruce Arians is great. But Stephen A. will tell you why pull off this upset.
I think they do. I'm going to call the Giants upset. And I think part of it is because Colt McCoy is going to play. Daniel Jones, it would have been a mistake to play him. And I'm not even talking about Daniel Jones' future. I'm talking about for right now. Giants are trying to make the playoffs. And they look like they're starting to turn things around. And what we saw from Daniel Jones last week is his legs, his wheels, are such a big part of his game that when the defense knows that he can't move, he's a sitting duck. Now, that may make you a little nervous about his future. Like, what is his upside if he's that dependent on his legs? Much like we ask, is Lamar Jackson whether or not he's elite year to year? Can he kind of be a fixture as an elite quarterback? Now think of a poor man's version of that. Colt McCoy, let's not forget, comes in against the Bengals. They win. Low-scoring game, but they win. He doesn't turn the ball over. Beats Seattle. He turned the ball over once, but he also threw a touchdown. But they won the game. And then didn't play against or start against Arizona. And that's when the Giants got beat up. McCoy doesn't do anything fancy. He seems to read defenses pretty well, and he has an idea of what he's doing. He's not super talented. He completes about 60% of his passes, but he's a solid NFL backup, and he's going to play within himself. And Stephen A., coming off a game like the Browns just did to a divisional rival, just like we saw with Pittsburgh and the Ravens. You play those teams the week after you have a better chance to win. And by the way, Pittsburgh lost to Washington. The Browns are going to suffer an emotional letdown, I believe. And while they love to zone block and run the ball, the Giants have an excellent defense against the run. And if you really believe that Joe Judge is an excellent coach, and he's a Belichick disciple, right? Then he knows what the Browns are going to do and has time to game plan to stop it. Like we see pretty clearly what the Browns want to do on offense now. I think that all adds up to, and they're at home, and everyone's picking the Browns. There's going to be some overconfidence. I think the Giants win a very tight, low-scoring game.
I disagree. I think you're being a homer. I think you're getting caught up in the emotional source of it all. Whether it's Daniel Jones or Colt McCoy or whomever, they're not winning this game because they can't score. Their defense is improved. I think Joe Judge has proven to be a quality coach. I'm very fond of the job that he has done, and he deserves to be commended for it. They won 4 straight coming into last week's game before they lost to Arizona. But I think you're forgetting about the Browns. The Browns haven't clinched anything yet. They're 9-4. But they've lost to the Baltimore Ravens twice. The Baltimore Ravens are a game back right now after beating them this past week. They can't afford to lose these games. You got the Giants and the Jets coming up in back-to-back weeks. The Browns better not lose this game. They better not have an emotional drop-off, at least not over the next 2 weeks. They better get to 11 wins because with the Ravens breathing down their backs, having beaten them twice this year, obviously that means they'd get a tiebreaker. The Browns can find themselves on the outside looking in. I think they're aware of it. I think they know it. I think the way that the offense has been clicking, the way that Baker Mayfield has looked, the way that Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb have ran the football, the way that he's connected with Jarvis Landry, et cetera, et cetera. I just think that there's too much going for the Browns right now. It's an acceptable loss to lose to a division rival like the Baltimore Ravens if indeed you're trying to show that a culture change has indeed taken place. It's another thing entirely to lose to the 5-7 New York Giants. That still has a quarterback that's trying to develop and what have you. There is no excuse for that. I think the Browns know it, and I think they will rise to the occasion and handle their business the way that they're supposed to this coming weekend against a Giants offense that's ranked 31st in points scored, 31st in yards accumulated, 30th with their passing attack as well. Even though Wayne Gallman has run the football effectively, the bottom line is they can't really throw the football, even with Sterling Shepard, with Golden Tate, with Eric Ebron and these boys. Evan Ingram, and these boys. I just don't see it happening against this Browns team right now. I think the Browns win this game.
Well, first of all, the Browns do have 9 wins, Stephen A., and we both agree, right? We can say ahead of time they're going to beat the Jets, so they have 10 wins.